What's good, family? It's Alexis Roan. I am extremely excited. Y'all caught me trying to text my mama real quick that we are live. She gets upset when I don't send her personal invitation. So, okay, mama, I was a few seconds late to this whole concept because I was sending you your private special text message inviting you to the conversation. I'm so glad y'all are here. We're recording this, and listen, what's so funny about what's interesting about the conversation that we're about to have, sexual harassment and double standards, whenever I talk about the premise of call and response, specifically that it is the story of a 49-year-old African-American woman who hears the voice of God say that by the end of the year, she's going to be married, and she's been given a $100,000 budget. The only problem is that she's not dated anybody in 6 years. And is currently not seeing anybody. So, that becomes a problem. Is that God's problem, her problem? And she is like, okay, I don't know who's supposed to be doing what. So she is actively recruiting bridesmaids and grooms, and a groom. And she only goes to places, to work and to church. So if you go to church hunting a husband, that's kind of par for the course. But if you go to your job hunting a man, it can become problematic, as it does for her. And that leads us to one of the big problems that we have in call and response. The main character, Kathy, identifies 3 different guys who may or may not be the ones that God has for her. And as a result, because she's socially awkward, she inappropriately approaches them. And their response is to go to HR and to file a sexual harassment charge against her. Now, what's interesting about that premise is that every time I tell people she filed, like this woman has 3 guys who filed sexual harassment charges against them, everybody cracks up laughing, everybody. And I'm like, okay, is that funny? Well, I am going to bring into the conversation one Brandon Alexander, who's going to give us some context. Hey, Brandon.
Hey, Lex, how are you?
You know what? I am good. How are you?
I'm wonderful.
Well, first of all, you have read the script, and so you are full on aware of, this whole dynamic. And what I was not aware of when I was telling you about the story was that that you actually were this person, like you had actually filed a sexual harassment charge against a woman that used to work with. Give us that background, that situation.
Yeah, so not quite sure how it all came about, but I continued to try to ward her off, I guess, and no matter what I did, she continued to come. At that time, it was come to my workstation at work, so I decided to go to the HR director and see if he could intervene. And when I went to him, he had a conversation with her and told her how I felt. And she told him on no uncertain terms, would she stop coming to my workstation if everybody else, at the job had the ability to come to the workstation, she would as well. So when he told me that, he basically threw his hands up and said, I don't know what else to do. And I just simply asked him, well, what would you do if it were me? If I were harassing her, what would you do? And he didn't have an answer for me. So
wow, of course he had an answer. He just didn't want to articulate that answer.
Right.
Yeah. So did you know, what would she do? She would come to your desk and do what?
Stand there, try and talk to me, and I'd ignore, and she'd stand there as if she had nothing but time on her hands. So
she'd just be standing there.
That's right. And of course it extended from work to my home life as well. So
wow, what did she do there?
So my son's mom and I were living together at the time, and I can recall her telling me one day, and we had just moved here to Raleigh, and she was working as a waitress at the time at a restaurant, and she was telling me about some weird looking woman who would come and sit in her section, not order anything, but just stare at her for, an hour or two, but never order anything. And then the next thing we know, all 4 her tires were flat on her car at the house, not at work, but at the house. So at that point, obviously I put 2 and 2 together and realized that it was the same person. So.
Wow. And did you call the police?
I didn't. and I think that's the interesting part. And I'd imagine I'm no different than any woman in that I thought it would just go away on its own if I just left it alone. I felt like anything I do, as far as trying to stop the situation, would have simply prolonged it. And of course, I wanted it to end. So I
How long did it last?
months.
Oh,
This went on.
oh man. Well, let me ask you this. How does it feel when I said that people laugh at this whole notion of men filing a sexual harassment claim against a woman? How does that make you feel given everything that you experience?
I understand why people laugh if
Okay.
you've never been in that situation, because it's rare. It's normally the other way around. And to be honest with you, looking back on it, I felt like I was the woman because all of my tendencies, all of my reactions, everything I did is exactly what I've heard every woman do. Whether it's an abusive relationship or whatever. I mean, you don't report it to the police. I mean, just the whole concept of not reporting it and staying in it and just letting it persist and hoping it'll go away. I mean, all of the same.
It's real. It's real. Yeah, yeah, it's real. And so they feel like they have all the power, and then when they get tired, then they go away, which is what happened with her.
And that's exactly, I mean, I just had to wait it out at the end of the day. Looking back on it, I realized that I could have taken it to the next level. But again, I think, when you're in it, you're probably too close to really see. And then you're also thinking, I don't really want to get this person in trouble. Even though, looking back on it, she could have lost her job.
Absolutely, because people do lose their job for.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but wow. Okay, don't go anywhere. I'm coming back to you. Let me. I want to pull Terri into this conversation. Mrs. Faison.
Good evening.
Good evening, sunshine. How are you?
I'm fine.
Okay, listen, you all on the like you got that Missouri summer, not Missouri, Michigan summer. So clearly it's not hot out there. If you're on the porch, you like kicking that big girl towel. And
I'm on the porch. I'm inside. It's very cool. I need a fan, really.
Listen, I need a fan too. I'm gonna send you one of these call and response marketing collateral fans. So I'm trying to like cool off here. Wow. So you were able to hear from backstage Brandon's comment about the HR manager's response to this. So Terri is she's currently an HR manager, and she is playing the HR manager, Allie Schwartz, in Call and Response. So with what Brandon, what you just heard backstage, how would you have responded to this situation? And how, like, what was it that the previous, that Brandon's HR manager got way wrong? Or did they get anything wrong?
Yeah, so direct quote from the play is, you have to treat all cases just like you would another. So, in real situations, when I experience these types of things at work, it has to be investigated. So whether it sounds absurd or not, whether it's from a male or female, you have to spend the time engaging with the employee to understand what they felt was done wrong that made them uncomfortable. And that's the key word, feeling uncomfortable. Everyone should be able to come to work, do their work, and go home and not feel anxious or upset around having to come back the next day. So once someone makes you feel uncomfortable going back to work the next day, that's when you know you have a problem. So when someone comes to you and says, I feel some type of way, you have the responsibility to talk to that employee, find out who's involved, talk to the other employees involved, and just do a full-out investigation. And what you discover is what you discover, but you need to give everyone the opportunity to actually flesh out all of the elements of why they're feeling the way they're feeling. And that's what I think, happened in that scenario, is that the manager might have thought of it as an odd scenario and didn't know how to react. And you really have to react the same way you would with anything else.
So have you ever had to investigate a man filing a charge against a woman?
I have. It's been a long time, but it was a little different where, I don't know if you want to hear about it, but
I do.
Yeah. Want to hear about it? Okay, here we go.
I do.
So this was a situation where it was a young lady, and there was several males that she was, I'd use the word taunting. And so one of the supervisors came to me. This is in a manufacturing environment, and mostly male workforce. This young lady was the only female in the department. and was really trying to get some attention. Obviously, the supervisor came to me and explained the scenario and just said that, you know, his workforce had been coming to him just saying it was very uncomfortable the way that she was making them feel. So got into the details of it, and sure enough, she was doing some things and behaving in a way that was not appropriate. She was basically wearing, this was an environment where they wore coveralls. And so instead of wearing coveralls, she would wear a white t-shirt, but she would not wear the appropriate undergarments. And she was, you know, she needed to wear the appropriate undergarments. And
I love that you can't say bra. That's beautiful.
Right. I'm trying to be appropriate here. I don't want to offend anyone. So she was doing this day after day. And the fact that she didn't have on the coveralls like everyone else did, that made people notice. And the fact that she wore the white t-shirt in a very actually pretty hot environment meant that, you know, you're going to perspire. And so therefore the white t-shirt with no undergarment, there's a certain result that she would achieve. And the guys had difficulty trying to focus because she was walking back and forth. So it was really unfortunate. So anyway, we had to talk with everyone. They all, you know, agreed. There's like 4 or 5 different guys that came forth and said, this has got to stop. So we talked with her and, you know, shared how it was inappropriate and, you know, adjusted the behavior. And, you know, it got better after that. But it was really a very odd scenario. But it did, you know, it was my first time having that situation. So it did prove to me that these things do happen even to males.
I was about to say all of us all of a sudden just started buffering. I was like, wait, right when it got good. Okay, so Terri, she adjusted the behavior and she kept her job?
She did. Yeah. Okay. She adjusted her behavior after some coaching and she kept her job.
Okay.
Yeah. And she apologized.
Brandon, did the woman that you filed the charge on, did she ever attempt to reconcile in any way? Because there is a part in the play where Kathy says to the HR manager, to Allie Schwartz, the HR manager, well, tell me who it is so I can go and apologize. Like, I didn't mean anything. And which is, you know, she's socially awkward, so I can believe that. But did this woman, not that, you know, and again, this conversation is about double standards. It's about sexual harassment and double standards, and how a man can't go and do all that happened to you, Brandon, and keep their job. But did she attempt to reconcile at all? Did she try to come to you and say, listen, I didn't mean to do this?
No, never. It's weird because I saw her coincidentally a couple of weeks ago. I hadn't seen her in years, and I was out jogging one day and I passed her. You know, we were running the opposite directions, and she made sure that I knew.
Well, did she wear tight? Did she wear a white t-shirt too and took her undergarments off, as Terri put it?
No, I was jogging with my friend, and
okay, so you weren't alone.
Right, and she commented on her sneakers or something that, you know, basically got us to stop so that I would recognize her.
Oh, wow. Okay, now you sure she wasn't following you? She hadn't been following you all these years. And
I have no idea. And I hope
oh my gosh.
I'm hoping, like, yeah, it is scary. It really is scary. So, I mean, you know, we laugh about it, and it worked out. Brandon, how would you have had that situation resolved? What would have made you feel like this sexual harassment is not a double standard? They take it, HR takes it, or management takes it equally serious, whether you're a male victim or female victim. How would you have seen, what would have felt like justice to you in rectifying the situation that you were in?
I think any kind of disciplinary action, even if it's just a letter of reprimand, not that I would have known that she received it, but you know, just knowing that something happened, she received something of some sort of reprimand, I think I would feel a whole lot better about the situation. But to hear from him that he didn't know what to do and that basically he wasn't going to do anything, you know, that was disheartening.
Yeah. Yeah. Terri, how would you have handled that situation again, just with the details that Brandon has shared?
Well, so definitely, I can't assess and say if I would have given a certain disciplinary penalty, but definitely in everything that I do, current job, there's always a verbal discussion, which is, like a coaching and counseling. There's always documentation of the incident. So like you said, there's something in the file that says that there's this history. So even if you didn't give some time off that first time, that if it were to happen again, the person's already been coached, counseled. So therefore, they're not taking heed to what you said if they do it a second time, and then you should have some type of disciplinary action. So the environment that we're in today, though, has changed. I mean, the incident I told you about was 10 years ago. The environment now where I work is not very tolerant of these types of things. We do have a lot more people feeling comfortable invading people's space a bit, and extends into social media as well. So I think we now see that penalties are a lot more common for these types of complaints.
Okay. And thank you for mentioning the time. Brandon, how long ago was this that the situation happened with you?
Probably 23, 24 years ago.
Okay.
And I'm sure there is no record of anything because it just didn't seem to go to that level for the HR director. So.
Okay. Yeah. But and I think that it's interesting that, and Terri, correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like to a degree, certain HR, like depending on what organization you're with, it feels like, the weight of something lives or dies based on how the HR director feels about whether or not it is a perceived threat. Is that fair?
That is correct. And it's funny because now we're trying to get the operations more, in tune to understanding these inappropriate behaviors so that we don't have to always be the heavy. They should be able to recognize it as well. So as an operations person, the supervisor is sometimes the first person that gets that complaint. And so they should have that discernment just like an HR person should. So, so in the past and, kind of evolving to where HR has been the one that leads the way on the thoughts around how we react to these. We're trying to get operations to be as astute as we are. Because sometimes those things don't always come forth. Yeah.
Okay. Good point. Well, Brandon, 15,000 words, call and response. I have had my say concerning sexual harassment and double standards. Have your say. What say you?
I would just say, again, based on, what Terri said, if you feel like someone is making you uncomfortable at work, certainly say something to HR personnel director, whatever they call themselves. And if you continue to feel that way and you need to go beyond them, then you need to do that. And just don't necessarily do like I did and hope that it goes away or let it cycle through. You just have to be a little bit more aggressive with stopping it. And I absolutely did not take that particular route.
Okay. So if you had it to do over again, what would you do differently?
I would push him a little bit harder.
Okay.
Until something became of it. And so that because I feel like she didn't necessarily take it serious after that point. She knew that she pretty much had free reign to do whatever it was that she wanted to do.
Perfect. Thank you, Brandon. Hang on, let me pull Terri back in here. Okay, Terri, so you are a part of this production. So concerning sexual harassment and double standard as a professional HR manager, and then as an HR man, as a person who's playing an HR manager and call and response, have your say.
So, a lot of this comes out in the play. I guess if I were to stand back and look at the situation, I would say, we've had old thoughts of what, harassment would look like because of a, traditionally male dominated society. The man is chasing, so he has to be the harasser. So the new thought is that, especially in the workplace, all employees have to have appropriate behavior. So, that double standard needs to be debunked. And then people need to be aware that everyone is capable of making someone feel uncomfortable, whether it's intentional or not. And I think that's where the wake up part is that you might be inappropriate and don't realize it. Because the other thing is that when you go to work, you don't necessarily have to make friends at work. You don't necessarily have to buddy up with people. So I think it's an assumption that because you might have something in common with someone, or you might like the way that someone looks, that you can friend, befriend them. Why can't I say that word? Befriend them. What in the world? Befriend them, and that it's something that they want as well. That's not always the case. Some people just want to come to work. They don't necessarily need friendship at work. Right. And so being able to understand when that is welcomed and when it's not is really critical for men and for women. And really, work is a sacred place. So you shouldn't come to work expecting to have a friendship, or definitely expecting to meet your husband like Kathy does in our play. So, I think you just got to make sure that,
like, she should go to the club and she can find her man.
Well, a library or grocery store or something, but not necessarily at work. Now, I did meet my husband at work, but we're not going to talk about that.
Right there, bam. So,
don't live by my example. Just listen to what I'm saying. That's what HR people always say. So making that connection is not necessarily an affirmation of the interest. It's just, you're making a connection because you are working together, and that's it. And that's all that you should expect. Yeah. And, you see how this comes to play in a more, humorous manner in the play Call and Response. So I would encourage everyone to come out and take a look at it. It's a serious issue, but it's really fun the way we kind of bring it to life, the whole sexual harassment, the double standard. So come out on Saturday at 11 p.m. and see us.
Yes, absolutely. Listen, it's a serious situation, but we have a humorous spin. Brandon, Terry, thank you so much. I'm gonna pull up this last hill. Okay, y'all, make plans to join us. Saturday is our last production of Call and Response. 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are doing it this particular time for the West Coast peeps. Want y'all to come out. So all my West Coast fam, expect to have me like heavy pursuing y'all this week. All right, make plans. Call and Response.